talks about considerations for used solar panels. I have about 10 slides that I'm going to run through. I know that many of you are already familiar with our programs, but bear with me. I know that not everybody is. So we'll talk a little bit about briefly about the stuff that we do. And then I'm hoping that the majority of this will be more of a conversation, and we'll be recording your input as we talk about what the considerations are. If we can move to the agenda, we always start with the safety moment, and then we'll do the things that I just said. Okay, safety moment. I know it's kind of the end of swim season, at least for me. But for those of you that still may be swimming, just a reminder, even with the flotilla in Lady Bird Lake, swimming is prohibited in Lady Bird Lake. Barton Springs, Face Bend, and Deep Eddy, but are places where you can swim. Watch for hidden hazards. I definitely have special flip-flops to wear that will stay on my feet. I was just at Krause Springs the other day. I like to have stuff on my feet so I don't get cut by rocks or glass. Also, typically, don't bring glass to the water. Yeah, always watch and check the depth before you dive. I know we were diving off some rocks, and you can, if there's something in the water, sometimes the depth can change really quickly if there's a rock or cropping next to where you may be jumping in. So stay safe. Wear a life jacket. I won't say that. And yeah, check the weather. And happy swimming. Okay, let's do the next slide. Okay, safety moment cleared. Hopefully we're all safer. Let's talk a little bit about our program. So I know we have some people new to Austin Energy Solar programs. Let's talk about it. We started our solar programs to encourage customer adoption of solar, to promote a healthy solar industry, and to help Austin Energy more sustainable. Back in 2004 is when we developed our first customer program. It was the residential program. The programs as we know it today, right? Since then, we've expanded our programs a lot. With our programs, we really want to leverage customer interest in solar to increase adoption. We want to make sure that we're serving as many customers as possible. So we have programs differentiated for different customer types, such as the residential, multifamily, commercial. We have special provisions for nonprofits. We also understand that not everybody, even with our incentives, is going to be able to install on-site solar. So we have subscription programs. So whether you're a tenant or you just don't have good sunshine, we have our Green Choice program for businesses and for customers, and also our community solar just for residential customers. And if you've been following the news that we've been putting out there, we're really excited. This bottom program, Hosting Community Solar, is a new program that we launched just at the beginning of this year. We've got megawatts upon megawatts in the pipeline. We're expecting to have some systems installed next year. And the idea is that local businesses can host solar arrays for the community solar program. So they get a rent payment for hosting the array from a third party. The third party that owns the system gets payment for us from the energy, and then we're able to take that energy and those benefits and put them into our community solar program so that we can subscribe more customers. Since starting the community solar program, it's been pretty much fully subscribed. And so we've been needing more capacity to it. So we're really excited for this, that both lets us enroll more subscribers and then also allows rooftops that maybe couldn't be used for other reasons. Maybe the company didn't have the money to invest or whatever have you, to open up their roofs for community solar. So that's a really innovative program. And we're continuing, along these lines of innovation. We know we're just at a really difficult time right now. I know anybody reading the news, figuring out how to navigate what's happening. We're definitely trying to be creative, innovative, have meaningful impact on how we can develop our programs to continue the successful solar adoption that we've seen. Last year, our inspectors inspected something like 16 megawatts of solar in the Austin Energy area. That's incredible. And this year, we're coming in unaudited numbers around 18.5 megawatts for the fiscal year that just ended. Happy fiscal new year, everybody. That's really exciting. So those are big numbers for us. That's also growth. We're really proud of that. We want to keep that going. That's why we have these stakeholder meetings. We can develop programs, find what's going to work to continue to increase adoption. So let's talk about our programs a little bit more in the next slide. The bulk of the solar that we're supporting for customer-sited solar, always like to say that's different from our utility scale solar and other efforts that happen, are incentive funded. Historically, this has been our way of increasing adoption. Just to note that
Local businesses can host solar arrays for.
I'll go ahead online. Okay, keep going. But we'll have when I'm done with the slide, we'll take a moment for questions too. We'll take with us. So all of our incentives are customer funded. They come from a line item on the bill. We have it highlighted down there. So, we're very aware that solar that gets installed through an incentive is paid for by solar and non-solar customers alike. I do want to differentiate the incentives, which are to help reduce the cost of installation from our ongoing payments of value of solar. Not every solar system goes through an Austin Energy program. Some people just want to install solar, and then they can earn bill credits to help reduce their bill. So, so those things happen. In fact, we're seeing more of that in the residential space when projects and customers want their solar projects to be part of our programs. We have a couple guardrails. We're going to get into that in a second. That if they can abide by, their project becomes eligible, and then we can also give them an incentive to help reduce the costs. That being said, with the hosting program that we have to increase community solar, we're really excited that is really taking off without any incentives, which means it's a sustainable program financially, and that makes it scalable. And we're trying to get a lot of megawatts installed, right? Our goal for 2035 is 405 active systems in our distribution grid in our territory, and we're only about halfway there right now. So we've got aggressive goals, finding ways to besides just straight on incentives to encourage adoption is a really powerful way to do that as well. So those are things that we've been working on. Yeah, so let's talk about our current program requirements. For our current program requirements, historically and since 2004, and some of these we are already kind of veering away from, such as the customer must own the system. Under our new hosting program, you're hosting the system. So that's changed a little bit. So we are, we're being flexible. We're adapting from things that were kind of tenets of what we thought served our customers best, served the industry best, served the utility best, right? And adapting to that. So now third parties can own the system in some cases. Top of the list, though, of course, the system must meet our design and interconnection standards. We inspect every solar system that is installed, make sure that they meet NEC and also our interconnection standards to make sure that they're not going to harm our grid. We also, if you're a customer and you want to be a part of our programs, you have to go through a participating solar contractor. We have a list of those on our website. In general, those contractors sign a code of ethics or code of conduct in our handbook, and we just expect better customer service from them. They have to be responsive to customers. They have to abide by our guidelines, and if we get complaints or if they tend to fail a lot of inspections, then we remove them from the program for a little bit and try to help them get back in line, right? So we have some rules about who can participate in our program for customers and for contractors. We also have the requirements about shade. That's at TSRF. The total solar resource fraction must be 75% or higher. Basically, that means We don't want to be incentivizing solar systems that aren't going to perform very well, because we want to make sure that that money goes to not just nameplate capacity that we can claim towards our 4 or 5 goal, but that it's meaningfully contributing kilowatt hour generation that saves us from having to go buy that energy from ERCOT, or that can help us reduce our demand during peak times when bills are high. An important part here, towards the bottom, is that we expect systems, once we incentivize them, our calculations are based on the idea that they are going to stay in the same spot, actively performing, for their useful life, which is usually considered around, 20-year lifespan. Solar panels have 25-year warranties. We're at the end of 25 years. They're supposed to be working around 80% typically these days, or higher. And then the balance of system equipment too also comes with warranties, albeit sometimes shorter warranties. And that is something, that our programs are built to have these solar systems not just be installed, but to stay in place, be operational. And that's sort of an expectation of our program. So we don't want to do anything that encourages people to take systems down prematurely, unless, of course, there's issues with the roof or hazards or something, right? And historically, we have required new equipment that needs to be UL listed and CEC listed. And this is for a couple reasons. One is for the longevity of the system. It's a lot of the cost is installing the system. So once it's up, let it operate, get its ROI. Another reason is as we're planning for Austin Energy, right? These additions to our distribution system, when they're in place and we have an idea of how they're going to perform, potentially. We could use that information as we're a distribution system planning or something to change how we're investing in the grid, right? But if these systems don't stay for a very long time, or if they move around and the location switches up, that really can hinder our planning abilities if we're really trying to calculate like the ultimate benefit, not just in energy, but also in how it's impacting the distribution system costs, which are typically about half of any given bill. Half is for the energy and half is just for, maintaining the grid and what we've got going on. So we like for the systems to stay in place and to be operating. And we think that having new equipment can help that. And it helps us better estimate the performance of the equipment, just as we already have things going. So that's a quick overview of current program requirements. I didn't hear someone go off mic, so I'd like to stop now just in case there are any questions. And then I just have like 2 or 3 more slides, and then we'll be opening up for full public comment and asking you guys questions.
Answering one question in the chat. Actually, it looks like she has 2, but I think I should be able to answer them. They're regarding specific projects.
Okay. All right. Project specific question. Okay. Thank you for that, Sam. Okay. So let's move on to criteria for program development. Is that where we're at? Okay. Yes. All right. So when we're developing a program, we want to make sure we're strategically aligned with our goals. We want to make sure that we're doing it in the best way possible. So as we consider new programs to be developed, which, we're having stakeholder meetings for other programs, such as the Residential Solar Standard Offer Program, looking, and there were some other initiatives that we were also working on, we lost funding for, but, what we're looking for, of course, is we want to have an idea of like, how many customers are we going to be serving with this program? What kind of megawatt capacity are we going to be able to add? What, at the end of the day, what, if we incentivize, if it's a program that involves an incentive, what is the dollar per kilowatt hour, looking at the life of the system and what's going on. We are transitioning to greenhouse gas accounting, so that also really makes that kilowatt hour contribution really important, right? Again, we don't want to be incentivizing systems that don't perform well and aren't really helping us reduce our greenhouse gases. emissions in a meaningful way. Anytime we run programs, I feel like, one of the sad parts of the solar industry is there can be a lot of hype around incentives or anything. There can be the possibility for customers to get taken advantage of. And obviously, we don't want customers participating in our programs to have bad experiences. They're our contractors' customers. They're also our customers. So we try to put in some consumer protections for them. We also need to make sure that we're running our programs in a way that is a wise expenditure of the public dollar. An example of this for our current programs is, we don't allow customers to double dip and in consideration of use panels. We certainly wouldn't want to incentivize a panel twice. We want to make sure that we're using our money to truly increase the adoption. Lifetime of the program, just putting that out there, like not all programs are suitable to run forever. Obviously, we do adapt programs with our commercial programs. We recently adapted to a CBI to better capacity-based incentive that gave upfront money to nonprofits and smaller companies that maybe needed that more than an on-bill payment. So, we have even adapted our current programs to better meet the needs of our community. And we really want to promote broad participation, not just among our customers, right, but also among the installers and developers in the program too. We don't ever want to design a program where all of the money ends up going into one entity. That would probably be better structured in a grant or something versus a program. And to that too, with broad participation and consumer protections, whenever we set up a program, we have to design it, with the knowledge that potentially people participating in the program may try to take advantage of it, which is why we have to put guardrails on things, right? So that's, and then we have a very active compliance arm that we meet regularly and, try to make sure that any of the contractors participating in our program are being responsive to our customers, are installing systems correctly the first time around, and aren't misleading customers. So we do that on an active basis and have been, I think, since the inception of the programs. So that being said, I think I've got 2 more slides and then we're ready for customer input. So for use panel considerations, these are put in question form. We could open it to, I'll put these to you now. I'm going to do 2 more slides and then we'll come back and, or maybe just 1 more slide. And then I'm asking for your guys' input on this. But things that we're wanting to talk to you guys about and get some answers beyond our in-house research is, is there a supply of healthy use panels? We know the solar programs have been running for a while, but, what are we seeing there? And what is your experience as the stakeholders here? Do installers want to work with use panels? If we build out a program, again, we want to understand like how many megawatts of solar are going to be served. Is there customer demand? Are customers interested or preferring use panels over new panels? We want to dive into these thoughts of like, what are the benefits to solar customers, non-customers, non-solar customers, still customers, installers, the general industry, if we were to develop a program around used solar panels. And, there are a couple different ways that those programs could look. We won't go too much into like program detail right now. This meeting is really about getting information from you all. So again, I'm going to hush in a minute to get your input. And thinking about opportunity costs as we, as we're currently working on many, many programs, thinking about what the impacts are to our customers and the community and the efforts that we're putting up. So putting those out there. Before I do that, I do want to hop down to one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. To the next slide. Considering a healthy industry, we care about that. Considering solar adoption, considering sustainability, it's not just about panels getting installed. Obviously, this meeting is about trying to reuse panels. We don't want solar panel. We want a lot of solar panels in Austin. We don't want to have a big landfill of old solar panels. So if you guys are not yet aware, please know we've been working with Austin Resource Recovery. This particularly has to do with recycling for, panels that wouldn't be reinstalled, maybe if they're damaged or however you do. But we're working on a way to help handle them responsibly, right? So there were some kind of stringent rules for AR, and it was expensive before, and we're working with them to make sure customers know that they're a resource, and then also trying maybe using the permitting system to get it so that customers can recycle panels for free, because that we think that more customers would use that service. So what you'll see here on the right is there are some stickers that will be being put on new equipment as it's in place, so that customers, at the end of life, hopefully not before then, can scan and make sure they get to the best place for end of life. So just saying, we do think about end of life considerations. We want to think about it, whole cycle sort of thing. This is an option that we've been looking at for panels that wouldn't be installed. So keep your eye out for those stickers, and visit the Austin Resource Recovery website, as they have some information on it, and we're hoping that they'll have more information. So if you guys didn't know, that's a thing happening. Yeah, shout out to my team and Megan, the inspectors, getting that doing. Okay. At this point, I feel like I've done a lot of talking. If you have any questions about what I said, let's definitely answer that before getting too far into this. But this is the part where I know previously we tried like a whiteboard option. Not everybody had their computer. So in this case, Athena has offered to type in input as you guys offer it, kind of regarding like if we were to develop some kind of program around used solar panels, what are your guys' feels about them? So that's what this meeting is about, to kind of get customer input from you. So we've got this, and then we also have that other slide where I just kind of ask some questions open. So maybe can we start with the used panel considerations and just see if people have answers to these, and then we'll spend some time on the table if you guys want to help us fill that out. And if you're not comfortable doing it in the meeting, we can also send it out in an email afterwards and have that open for a week to get responses. If that sounds good. So Diana, you're here, and I see your corners moving a little bit.
Switching.
Do you have some? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to call on you first.
Yeah, just a couple maybe assumptions. One, are you operating under the assumption that used panels will be less expensive? And if there was a program that incentivizes something, that it might meet the same kind of general ROI goals? I know that's been an informal criteria for incentive levels, or is it still relevant?
I mean, it is something that we're looking at. And one of the things, I know I talked about what we're doing in the past, but every time that I put anything about what we're doing in the past, I was like, but the future is going to be totally different, right? And so we're aware that there are a lot of things right now, used solar panels wouldn't be eligible for the tax credit, but what's going on, So, it is a criteria for our program to look at those things. How we're going to approach that in the environment is, great question. But we are not under the assumption that the panels are any cheaper. We actually did a little bit of research, and they're not significantly cheaper, like just looking at Craigslist or something. I mean, we didn't do like a comprehensive review, but is it your experience? That's one of our questions. Is it your experience that?
Well, yeah, I think it comes to
cheaper?
where, when some of your other questions, like where are they coming from, how many, what's the demand? I mean, I think when I look at the customers, pros and cons, if it's less expensive, let's just say, could be, the ROI could be less sensitive, so it becomes more of an asset purchase. So it's less expensive, which might mean kind of the broader market potentially for smaller, lower cost systems. The con part of that is that it's there's less verifiable trust that it works the same way that it should. But it's not as big an investment, so it kind of lowers the investment threshold. It might just change the rationale, something we're not familiar with. So that's why I say assumptions may not be relevant.
Well, yeah, there's a principle for that, right? With the shifting. So we have thought about that. And we looked at panel pricing because we were curious about that too. And I know we've had discussions about what sort of testing, and I touched on it lightly with that because of our criteria of wanting to understand the KWH for incentive money spent, we've considered what sort of panel testing requirements there might be. We're not quite ready to it felt a little premature to come out with them in this meeting, but yeah, we've been working on that. It would certainly be a part of the program. And I understand that even if the panels are cheap, doing some sort of testing, visual inspection, electrical inspection for every panel that's up would also potentially add cost. So I'm hesitant to make any sort of assumptions about the cost of used panels. That's one of the reasons I'm wanting input from you all on what you're seeing.
Maybe one other quick remark. You kind of were asking where the panels coming from, and then I think you're saying that likely you would not incentivize panels twice. So
We prefer not to, yeah.
I think it'd be worth really understanding the sources. There's big batch, like utility scale or repowering from big commercial outside of AE territory. Then there's, and then you could think of that as like rural to urban movement of material. What we've experienced so far is more of the inverse. Excess supply here, and it pushes out beyond where people are more DIY kind of.
Yeah.
So I think that would important to understand. Your criteria is going to kind of cordon off supply from inside the city, then where they're really coming from. More than likely larger utility scale plants, then commercial formats that start to get into kind of weird silos.
Yeah.
We can't hear Stan.
Oh.
Oh.
What's the best thing? Should I try to say what you said? I will never speak as gracefully as Stan does. Do you want me to, I don't want to offend you by summing up what you're saying, but should I?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, sure, offend me, please.
Okay, correct me if you like. I'm here for correction. So
Now I can hear him again.
Oh, okay.
we had to get him nervous and he started talking louder.
Well, just to summarize, I think the program constraints need to be mindful of where the source of panels would be in the near term, because they're coming from everywhere, but in our experience, but the concentration of them have been coming from the city, surplus panels from events, and they're moving out to the countryside, let's say, generally. And if the incentive is directed at panels, or is restricted from panels coming here, then we really need to understand what that supply from elsewhere is through secondary markets or individuals or repowering.
Well, and from
Getting more feedback from that.
yeah, our thoughts primarily have been on testing, for kilowatt hour performance, because that's pretty important. But the way that you're speaking makes me feel that you'd be comfortable putting some kind of estimate of amount of kilowatts or megawatts that you see moving around. Because obviously, just because our programs deal with new panels, I don't have a lot of experience with what sort of quantity of used, and for the sake of discussion, let's say used less than 10 years old panels that you're tending to see. So, and if Stan's talking about where panels are coming from, potentially utility scale places, potentially in town, what kind of, are you comfortable doing that here, or can we chop you up in an email afterwards?
Yeah, I think there's end of life for some customers is actually 10 years because they have roof issues and they just don't want to go forward. So it's not, if you think of a used panel as just like a half-life, still could be, but they're being repurposed because of the client. Those are projects in Boston. We've seen big projects outside Boston where it's a roof issue, it's a remodeling issue, and they're not even repowering, they're just removing the solar system panels, HED is one I know you're familiar with. There will be more like that. So it's a question of if it's coming from Austin, that's a market, current and future use panels. That's not part of the program. We need to look at bringing what distribution channels would bring panels to Austin. That's not organized, right?
Well, yeah, and as a program, because, part of what we would have to do too is verify. So right now, we're not in the habit of asking anybody whether, or even what country, much less what country or where their panels are from. So, yeah, it would be, I think it's fair to say, well, not like, that we don't want to incentivize the panel twice, right? Fair to say, okay. So, yeah, how, that would be part of if we went into like the detail of building a program, which we're not quite at yet, but that part of that, in addition to doing some sort of testing and verification, making sure it's not damaged, making sure that it's we're able to estimate performance, but also where is it coming from? And your other point that you made is that if they're utility scale or something, they may be different sizes or different formats. Then that's something that, that'll have to be looked at. Yeah, let's move. Thank you for being the first to go. Who's got their hand up first? Whoever has.
I think that's me.
Hey,
Hi,
David.
Hey, thanks for having this meeting, and I just wanted to comment on the issue of cost, speaking from the perspective of a local nonprofit here at American Youth Works. As a nonprofit, we are able to accept donations from corporations. And so it could be a situation where a company may want to donate to our nonprofit some used panels and stuff. So it would be coming to us at no cost, but then we would be looking at the other affiliated costs with installing them at our facility or at a similar nonprofit. And so being able to assign some value to them in terms of contributing to the local solar grid would be useful for us in terms of making our ability to be able to install panels once they're donated to us. So I just wanted to.
I want to make sure I didn't mishear you, because I do want to make sure that everyone knows that you can install used solar panels and you'll still get the value of solar for them. So that if a customer were to install used solar panels, they would still get bill credits and benefit from it. And the topic here, at the same rate that anybody else would for the production. So the topic here is kind of understanding a little better what the situation is, to understand if, when, how Austin Energy can support this. And maybe I didn't quite hear what you said, but I just wanted to make that distinction. Did I?
Right.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. Not nearly as articulate as you and Stan, but what I'm trying to say is we can get, we sometimes would get used panels donated by local corporations or such as a tax write-off. But then if we were able to get credits for installing used panels, that can help us offset the other costs to being able to install those used panels at our facility or another one.
Okay, and I was nitpicking on the term credit, just because the solar panels, regardless of being in a program or not, will get a credit. And then understanding that you're still saying that continuing to reduce the cost of installation beyond donated panels. Gotcha.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for being here. I see Kaiba.
Thanks. Yeah, I think first, under the pros, I guess it's for customers, is just reducing waste, keeping material out of the landfill. But did just want to kind of comment also on the statement about not incentivizing panels twice. And I guess I would just maybe encourage, I don't know, some reconsideration of that. Just because the panels, they are one component, but there are so many other costs that goes into a whole system, the other equipment and also the labor. So what we, found trying to work with used panels at Solar Austin was actually that it was going to cost us more to use the used panels, uh, you know, more in terms of the balance of system, just because they were less efficient panels. And then also we weren't, going to be able to get an incentive. So I guess, there's a con there for, I guess maybe it's on the installer side or customer, that you might need, one of the things was like we were going to need more racking for that system because it was going to take more panels to get to the same capacity that we wanted to reach. So yeah, I mean, I hear the like wanting to use dollars wisely, but just, the panels are one component. So it's, I mean, there is could potentially be a slight overlap there, but it's not like you're really like incentivizing a whole system twice, even if you did allow panels from within the service territory, and it would cut down on what you need to track. In terms of the supply, like we certainly have access to a ton of used panels that are,
What,
think
can you
about 10 years.
quantify, yeah, can you quantify more than a ton, maybe?
I think we were offered like 7,000 panels or something crazy like that. I mean, the HEB has a ton of them that they're taking off of buildings. And I am assuming that they're repowering, but I don't know their situation.
Okay, so from a single source, yeah. Okay. And what I'm hearing too is power density, so that when we're using old panels,
Yeah.
that there are power density issues as well. Which I think is an important consideration as well, right? Yeah, it would be, I mean, I think it obviously we've had solar for a long time, good on us. And like in the Austin area, and I'm hearing you guys say that customers frequently don't have, not frequently, but on occasion don't have solar panels installed, for the useful life of the system, which, I think is a consideration for this program and for our existing programs, right? For the assumptions that we're making. But it's important to understand, what is happening, with the solar panels that are here. And again, what we can do to continue encouraging adoption and local solar here and for the value that it has. And that's a question too. I mean, for those of you experienced with used panels, are you reusing racking? Are you using other, I mean, typically not. Are you reusing other balance of system components?
Very limited basis. A lot of times it's the availability of full set of SKUs for a racking system may not be available. Sometimes it's not actually possible to augment effectively, the right set of hardware.
And now I'm going to derail, but are you using string inverters? Like what are you able to, I mean, how for the rest of the system design?
I mean, I think it's kind of dealer's choice. Oftentimes it's, just depends what problem you're solving, but there's no prohibition on that. Can I add this? I don't know if there's other questions, but just the reducing waste. I was wondering I thought there was an ordinance, 2015, a city ordinance that was not incentivizing, but encouraging companies to go zero waste. And I think they had a rough certification, Gold Star program. Are there any opportunities to align with our city goals, waste reduction, that are very specific, consumer perspective?
Yeah. I think that would go in either an unknown or a pro. pro could be opportunity to align with program, Athena. Or an unknown, we could set it there so that we could take a look at what that is. Can we add that on the Austin Energy side? Because strategic alignment is definitely one of those criterias, and they're always something to strategically align to. Doing it with the city is probably one of the best ways to do it.
And maybe to add to that,
Put it in that.
if this were not about redeployment in the city, but maybe more as a market organization function where Austin Energy helps aggregate, test, and push back out, is that something that, like, at a minimum that you consider?
Well, yeah, and that's where, I want to, like, preparing for this was a little difficult just because, just the time where we're at in the solar industry and, all of our hopes and dreams and wherever they're living now. And how to support this, right? And an example, the recycling program is a different way of supporting it. So, we care about the full life cycle of solar panels. There's so many things that we care about to put all together. And the answer may be an alternative to like straight up upfront incentive. I mean, that's why we're not coming out with a program. Not that we haven't thought a lot about different things that we could do and different criteria and different ways to, but we're trying to get this input from you all to make sure that we kind of really understand, again, supply, demand, like what all we're dealing with, what we perceive that the benefits are, find the most meaningful things, and then design the best program in like the most timeliest manner, and whether that's an incentive program, whether that's more of a customer information, whether that's, it could be many things. And if you guys have ideas, like these are up here just as a format to kick things off, but we have 18 minutes and my plan is to spend all of this time learning from you. So, what you got?
Just maybe the material flow right now, the recyclers, there's a number of recyclers they'll charge. It's nominal, but the shipping is really the limitation, and it's not that expensive, but to be efficient about it, you need a certain minimum number of panels to justify the shipping. So those business models are really serving utility scale developers that have thousands of panels. They're broken or they're whatever coming off of those projects. So
Yeah.
The long tail, so say Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, high concentration of smaller companies with smaller throughput of used panels. There's not a great way to aggregate that, make it attractive for recyclers or cost effective. So every company is different, but it's a pretty high bar, not casual. And, but altogether, it would just take a handful of companies to meet that. So there's a intermediary function that's missing in the market right now.
Unis unite.
A little bit, and then the demand for those panels is, I would say, it's probably pretty legion across the state and even Mexico, and you name it. Like that's happening globally. But there are good channels to get it to a spot where
Yeah. I hear you. My concerns are like shipping costs, obviously, that's a huge thing. And then of course, making sure they're not damaged during shipping. But I mean, we do occasionally get emails and inquiries of people wanting used panels to be sent outside of Austin, right? But yeah, I acknowledge shipping as a cost. When you're speaking about urban, the movement of urban and rural, power density too is also important. I mean, isn't it amazing how much power you can get with new panels out of a small roof space? Like that really crazy. Who would have thought we would have been there? And not that that's the end all be all of the discussion, but like, are used panels best served here, not being shipped? Are they, will they do well in areas that have more land, more space, maybe, different things going on. So yeah, what's the best thing to try to keep them here, to try to send them to someplace else that is asking for them? And then, so my question to you, when I did this guy. And I saw it physically, like, you're like, I better talk faster so she can get that. I don't think I hope I didn't interrupt you. I'm sorry. In those situations, since I don't want to dive too much into sources of use panels, but we are talking about supply. That's one of the questions. For the people getting rid of the use panels, are they checking them out? I mean, do they have like a dumpster and then a shipping pallet, or like what sort of thing are they doing upon dismantling? If we're talking about, it sounds like you have some experience with some like large scale, or even I know HEB was one that we had at hand. So can you tell me
Yeah,
about that?
I think it's,
I'm
I
curious.
mean,
To the sidebar.
the way they go in is the way they go out. Typically, I mean, it's distributed, so every customer has their own program. Oftentimes, it's rare that we would get a set of strong criteria that says, here's the end of life plan. I've seen that more now on, say, municipal RFPs, there's a requirement for that. Oftentimes, if it's a private company or individual, they say remove them and then put something else back or not. So to remove them, we've made a commitment to say we're going to relocate, dispose, redistribute it in a way that doesn't work from the landfill. But there's generally, we have to solicit payment for that if it's this. So I'd say there's not a strong signal from the market that says this is coming from the customer. In the event of HEB, they said, how do we deal with this responsibly? And other customers, even nonprofits, say, remove them and do what you will. So then it's a matter of taking that on in a systematic way.
Hearing you speak to when we're talking about customer demand, it almost sounds like there's more of a demand for the customers that want to get rid of the panels. They don't, that want to see them off well, perhaps, and not be charged for them. More so than customers saying, I really want used panels because I perceive that they'll be cheaper to install or anything, right? It feels like almost.
That's also coming, but it's generally ad hoc and it's Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace market. So people looking for
Mostly do it yourself, kind of.
more so, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Or what I wonder is if Austin Energy is looking at, or if there's anything that's a clearinghouse of that kind of, somebody has these, somebody wants those, anything other than ad hoc.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Well, and there are cases like we're very proud of our EV buyer's guide where people can log into a site that we help support and identify new and used EVs in the area that we developed because there was a time when dealers were not as proactive about and knowledgeable about how to sell their own EVs. I think we can put that on the list of things to think about. And then can kind of consider appropriation, like the appropriate thing for us to do. Obviously, there's a little bit of risk. Like one of the things we haven't talked a lot about, but if a panel is broken or potential fire hazard or something like that, like we would have to have a lot of disclaimers or something because we don't want to be a part of something that. And of course, everyone here today would be responsible and check and do all the things, but it's possible if we develop a program that there will be people that may grab used panels that they can get for free or cheap and then not fully test them and then install them. And if those panels were damaged in dismantling or shipping or whatever. And so there is something, I don't have all the answers, that's why I'm here asking questions, but we probably have to do something about that. So putting down notes about maybe facilitating a marketplace for used panels as a potential avenue of things to do. Did I capture that right? Okay. All right.
And I had one other kind of small comment on the incentivizing twice. You mentioned EVs. Bought one last year and we got the federal rebate for it. And noticed that there were two, I guess I don't know if those are done yet or the end of this year, but there was one level for new cars and one level for used cars. So I'm sure you thought of that, but that seems like that would make sense for this. Maybe the incentivization isn't as much incentive, isn't it? lesser amount.
Yeah, I do want to, I appreciate what you're saying. I do want to differentiate that cars are inherently mobile. They're designed to move. And in general, solar systems are inherently immobile and not designed to move. And, you know, we don't want to encourage a thing. We do need to be careful that we're not encouraging any sort of thing where the panels would move. Like even right now, we're like, oh, well, it could make sense that even though we anticipated it would be installed for 20 years, maybe under some circumstances it's 10. We still, you know, we don't want these, like, we don't want to toss them out, right? But like, what do we do with them? And maybe we could move them. But my brain is, as my friends know, we'll always go to the worst case scenario. And not that means we need to give it huge precedence, but these are things that we want to think about. I do want to differentiate. I love our EV buyers market guide. If you guys aren't a fan of Austin Energy already, check out what we do for EVs. It's cool. We're cool. So solar panels do have a little bit of a nature, but don't, like, we're putting ideas and we're going to sit and think. So I appreciate it. Don't let me stop you from, you're one of the few people here in person. So if you have more ideas, don't let me stop. And it's possible that somebody has their hand up too. I don't want to ignore people. Now we're down to 8 minutes.
So sorry, in the chat, there's a couple things, so Mo says low cost entry for customers, which I think we've added, potentially less expensive. And then better to put them in the houses than the landfills, which we also said are this week. So Mo, does that feel like it captures your thoughts? Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And we will send things out if you don't. Oh wait, is someone speaking? Maybe not. Because we do want more input, and this just means maybe I'm talking too much, or I'm not doing a good enough job inspiring you to participate, one or the other. Does anyone that hasn't spoken yet have any thoughts? Feel brave enough either in the chat or with spoken word to speak to any of these questions that call to you, or any of the near empty squares on the right?
Did anyone ever?
Hey everyone, I do have something there for the empty squares around Austin Energy, and it's more of a question rather than some answers. But curious if anyone has explored what other parts of the country have been doing with upcycling or recycling panels. This problem isn't unique to us, and so I'm sure that there's been other jurisdictions that have maybe thought about how to make this beneficial from a utility or state perspective.
And Juan, wait, I heard you say recycling, which is something we're looking at. And did you say upcycling or offcycling? I think I'm hip on like the latest sustainability phrases, but also I have bad hearing, and also I may not be a SIPUS, I think. What was the first part?
Recycling and upcycling, which is just, reusing them.
Okay, all right, I'm hip to that. I thought you said offcycling, and I'm like, maybe there's a new thing. I'm here to learn. I was like, if there is, Ron would know. So I was like, okay, yeah. I think we're definitely all on the same page. We don't want good panels to like be recycled unnecessarily, right? Like one of the coolest things about solar that I'm sure many of us in the room have said throughout our lives is 25-year lifespan. So we recognize that. And I think it's good to put on there. That definitely is a goal. So I appreciate that. And points to you for speaking up and answering the call. Anyone else on the call here to give input before Stan goes again? Otherwise, I like that you're willing to. Any other? Wait, we do have another hand up.
I can say a few words.
Oh, I don't want to play the hand raising game, but Tiger had her hand raised first. Can you?
You can go first. I can go after. It's fine. No problem.
Okay. All right.
How the hell do I
Go
raise
for
a
it.
hand?
You're supposed to say that anymore? Go for it. Yeah.
Where the hell is that hand raising thing?
Oh, it's okay. Just go. You're good.
Yeah, this is Adi with Greenbelt Solar.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think we should incentivize used panels. There is so many cons and very few pros. We should probably explore recycling them for the full capacity, because right now recycling means breaking the glass, taking the aluminum frame off, and call it a recycle, which isn't really a recycle. But the used panels, depending on the lifespan of them, but we've seen the recent hailstorm that happened in Mueller neighborhood, which is probably the most saturated neighborhood for residential solar in Austin. And that thing is a graveyard. 2 years. That thing happened September 8th, I think, 2023. And at least we installed there a few months ago, and we had an inspection, and I drove by. It looks like a graveyard. It seems to me the older panels, they'll work, but at a very, very diminished capacity. And another thing is potentially the junction boxes that were put in 2007, 8, 9, 10, around that time when the 240 watts panels were the thing. Those junction boxes in this Texas heat and weather really do become brittle, and the caps pop off. They're supposed to be NEMA 6R, supposed to be like really waterproof. But once the cap is off, there is nothing preventing the water coming in, possibly shorting it. So to give an incentive for something that's half-ass is, I don't think that's a really good idea. But then again, that's just my opinion and my voice as an installer that have been doing this since 2009. Stan from Lighthouse chimed in a lot. He's knowledgeable. He's OG. He's been around forever. I don't know. He's gave a good input. Investing in the recycling program is probably best. And I'm all for giving breaks and incentives to nonprofits. And I encourage that. And I'll love to see that happen. But I don't think it should be done with used panels, because that opens a door to MacGyvering and shenanigans and bullshit. Just saying.
Can I get clarification? So you're saying that the panels or systems in Mueller, in your experience, are underperforming.
Your office
Herman,
is nearby. Go take a ride, man. It's a graveyard on those roofs.
But my question is, you checked out, and it's definitely the panels that are underperforming and not just like old inverters. Is that?
I mean,
Because
they all
sometimes systems
work,
can be
but
underperforming.
if they're not really broken, I won't even go into issue of micro cracks, which is a thing, and it can't be really visually inspected unless you're freaking Clark Kent. But they work, but half-ass. So to incentivize something like that, especially when that was given a very generous rebate at the time, it was maybe $2 or something. I don't think that's fair to Austin Energy as an entity. It is not fair to customers either. So a lot of those guys, we've done maybe 20 in that area, all the way from Hutto and Pflugerville, because when the hail hits, it always hits I-35. I'm not sure why, but that's usually the case. And most of those people opt for us to recycle it properly, and we go to the St. Elmo Center and we drop them there and all that. And then they get a brand new system, which if it's Austin Energy, they'll get $2,500 for it. And it will be properly inspected with all new equipment and all the guardrails you have in place. Most residential customers, 9 out of 10 will say, well, give me a better system. And some other lady also spoke before. These used panels, I mean, when you have a 200-watt panel that's already kind of putting in 150, 140, and that's being generous after 15, 20 years in Texas sun, you need a whole lot more panels to cover something that like a small array with normal 20, 25 panels would do with microinverters. It's just really diminished capacity. We can talk about data sheets and 25-year performance warranty. Well, it depends. If it's REC solar, then that's kind of holds, and I'll take those panels. But if it's some Chinese crap made in 2009, it's not. That's just my experience. The MC4 connectors become brittle. The junction box becomes brittle. The way they encapsulate the framing around the glass and the back sheet and the solar cells is all kind of janky. And I'm not saying delaminating, but I'm saying delaminating. After a while, I mean, right now is, what are we talking? 193-degree weather right now, and we had 110 a few weeks ago. If you do that for 15, 20 years, no thing, man-made, solar or not, will perform at laboratory conditions like they claim in their data sheets. So that's BS right there. But I mean, they will perform. They do work. It's just at a really diminished capacity that is almost not worth it. If you look at, forget the technical stuff. Look at it from like a financial perspective. Like, let's say the gentleman that has a youth nonprofit, I would love to install a system for him, and we'll donate the panels. But are we going to put used inverters, used wiring, used racking, use weave clips, use flashing, use wire, use disconnects,
Well,
use meter
yeah,
cans?
I
You
agree.
you have to, but that's
I
not
think
even
we're
it.
yeah, I
Once you
think we're
put a
not.
pen to paper with a brand new system and I used all, not just panel system, let's say, it's not that much difference financially. And but
Yeah.
the other question is, like, those things are nearing the lifespan, like you mentioned, 20 years. Let's stick with 20. Who's gonna, and we're gonna allow it to go to your grid according to your guidelines and all that stuff. But I mean, who's gonna maintain that system? Who's gonna change the fuses? Who's gonna fix the also, I don't want to go into the glass, because every solar panel, from the shittiest Chinese one to REC and SunPower, they have a 1/4-inch tempered glass in the front, which supposedly is supposed to withhold a golf ball size hail. Supposedly. And for the most part, the newer ones made coronavirus and younger have held. And we do about 100, 150 of these. They call them detach and reset a year. So I've seen the buffet table of everything from crap to pretty good. But those pretty good tend to be really young buck from like 350 watt and younger, stuff like that. The older
But I
stuff,
think
yeah. So, who's going to maintain that? And it seems to me that glass, I'm not really sure how tempered glass holds with UV light hitting it for 12 hours a day, every day for 15 years. But I think, and I'm not being scientific, I just think from my observations, it becomes more brittle, and it's no longer a golf ball size hail, but like a peanut size hail or something. It will crack. From what I've seen, in the field. And then that pretty much, that deal you got with the used panels all of a sudden becomes a big burden on installer, on the roof, on the guy that installed it, on Austin Energy allowing it to the grid. It just needs a lot more hand holding than just a good, solid, normal incentivized system that you've had for decades. So it would be better to invest public funds in recycling these panels correctly. And there is a lot of copper in that thing. There is a lot of aluminum. There is a lot of other glass could be reused, invest in a robust recycling program for the Austin Energy area panels instead of dumping them in the dumpster behind freaking Goodwill or something. That some people have been doing. I mean, I'm doing it the right way, but it's a lot of hand holding, and I'm doing it because of my convictions to not litter this planet. But it's a lot of work, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. So to have a recycling center where everything could be properly recycled for the end of life, as you call it, well, let's give those panels a proper burial. Instead of putting them on the roof and having all this whole other slew of other stuff. And I'm just talking as an installer, Excuse my colorful language, as some people have said I use.
Yeah, this meeting is being recorded. I'm gonna
Well, that's the story of my life.
I've noted. It's 2:05, so we are a little bit over time. I know some people may have to go. I want to summarize real quickly. Sounds like you're concerned about a reduced value to customer, maybe.
Severely
and then
reduced
it sounds
value.
like you're also concerned that older panels, and I think that this is possible, that older panels may not hold up as more recent panels. But I also want to say, you talked about installing a system with all used parts, and we're definitely not talking about that, especially things like
I know, but I was like trying to make a point.
can be much more easily recycled. Yeah. So we're just, but okay, but I appreciate the feedback there. I thought I saw one other hand up as well. Are we all hands down?
We have a couple comments in the chat about
Okay.
warranties and one about.
Yeah,
incentives.
there you go, warranties.
Okay, yeah, do you want to read them
Real quick for the record.
loudly?
Yes, Camila says it's hard to offer warranties on the installer side when installing used panels. There's also the issue of manufacturer warranties being potentially voided if panels are uninstalled and reinstalled on a new address.
Yes.
We also run the risk of equipment not being available to complete repairs on the systems.
All valid.
Yes. Okay, yeah, we're talking about manufacturer warranties and to my knowledge, if anyone knows differently, we'll still be taking input after this meeting. This is just kind of to, start the conversation, but yeah, the manufacturer's warranties can be hard to keep or may not apply if you move. And then what was the other? I just want to say it loud.
Kaiba's comment, perhaps limiting an incentive to panels 15 years old or less would help avoid panels that are falling apart, but also some testing and physical inspection
lot
would
of-
be.
Yeah,
room
we
for
can.
fun and games.
Okay, yeah, so definitely not the oldest of panels. Yeah, panels have improved a lot. There's been a lot of money invested in solar panel research, in the teens and whatnot. So anticipating some difference in quality of panels potentially. Any other comments online?
That's all.
No? I want to thank everybody so much for coming, being part of this community stakeholder group. We appreciate your input here. We're still interested, of course, in my girly dreams. I was like, this will all be filled out and we'll have all the answers, and we don't always have all the time. So, but we are continuing to seek input from you all. We'll send this out, and probably still really be actively collecting input for a week and take a look at the feedback we have here, along with, kind of our program criteria, and then also just brainstorm where is appropriate, for Austin Energy to be able to support. I think we're all on the same page. We don't want panels to go to the landfill needlessly. And so we can continue that conversation. Thank you all so much for your time today. I appreciate you.
Thanks all.
Thank you. And if you have anything, you can send it to Solar Apps.
Thank
We'll
you.
send something out. Yeah, thanks.